Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lenore Skanazy.
Totally the best introduction I have ever had, and I'm glad it's being videotaped. So thank you very much, Jerry. Thank you, Reason. Thank you, everybody who put on this fantastic weekend. I've learned so much and had so much fun, and I'm bummed Annie isn't here. Oh, well. So be it. I learned so much from her. One thing that we were going to talk about, Jerry, is that you're going to say, and she is America's...
Worst mom.
America's worst mom. Absolutely verifiable. If you Google that phrase, you will find me there for, not that I Google myself obsessively, but as of last night, 2 in the morning, 77 Google pages. Okay, that's a lot, okay? Followed by America's worst Mother's Day gift. It's coming right up. I'll tell you guys, we don't want an iron, okay? And lingerie is for Father's Day. So, worst mom or not, I'm a mom, and that means that I spend a lot of time talking to other moms. And a few years ago, I was talking to my upstairs neighbor. I lived on the 18th floor. She's on 23rd, Manhattan. Her name's Melissa, and she was looking at me so upset. And she was going, Lenore, can you believe she did that? And I'm like, what are we talking about, Melissa? What are you so upset about? Melissa had been at Costco shopping with her 2 little daughters who were like 5 and 2 at the time. She was waiting in line to check out. And the lady behind her tapped her on the shoulder and said, excuse me, would you mind watching my little baby boy here? I have to go get enough tuna for Armageddon. Back there. That's how you shop at Costco. And Melissa said, of course, of course. And so that's when Melissa turned to me and said, can you believe she did that? I'm like, Melissa, nobody gets it straight at Costco. It's just overwhelming. It's the apotheosis of American culture. No, Lenore. I could have taken her baby and she would never have seen him again. And I'm like, that's what you're so upset about. Melissa was upset. Everybody else she'd talked to, everybody agreed. That was America's worst mom, that mom behind her in line. And I said, would you mind if we just play acted for a second what this would involve? And Melissa's like, sure, okay. And I'm like, well, Melissa, first of all, for you to take this baby, who isn't yours, would require you to be, a kidnapper, first of all, and going about your nefarious scheme using the kind of slow yield method of waiting for somebody to give you a baby in public. But, there it is for the taking. Got the 2 girls, now you got the boy. Okay, so all you have to do is leave your place. Yeah, you're leaving your place in line at Costco. That's crazy, right? So then you get to the door, and I don't know about in Philly, but in New York, there's a lady who's checking to see if you've stolen anything. It's like, yes, we stole that other lady's baby, but I'm the baby. Like, shut up, kid. And then you're at the parking lot, and you're trying to find your car, and you're nervous. It's your first felony, Oh, God. Okay, there, you get to the car, you open it up, you put the kids in, and you strap them in, and then, yeah, you need a car seat for the boy. You didn't expect it, so you have to make one and out of a laundry basket, and you put him forward. Is he 2 years old yet? Or is he still backwards? You forgot to ask. You didn't know you were going to get him. And then give everybody a board book and Cheerios and something educational to read, and then the videos, and then you have to change from Disney. You got to get Bob the Builder, and then you put yourself in the front seat and you gun it across state lines, never to come home again. Now you got 3 kids under 5. One you don't even know his name, and you got to go live in the hills of, I don't know, Jersey. Are there any hills in Jersey? Got it. Short Hills. I guess Short Hills, yeah. Right. But that ruins my joke, because it's the hills, not Short Hills of Jersey, because you got to go live on nuts and berries, never to use your credit card again, never to use your phone or your car. And Melissa has this whole scenario, and it's like, well, so who's crazy, okay? Is it a person who thinks that their kid could possibly be unsupervised for 1 minute in public? Or is it the other person, which I guess is Melissa? So, of course, I thought Melissa was crazy, and I wrote a column about it in the Daily News where I used to work. Suffice to say, I don't work there anymore, and I now have 2 subscriptions to the New York Post. Just saying, if you come to New York, there's a certain paper I wouldn't buy, okay? Actually, there's 2 papers I wouldn't buy, but that's me changing. So I write this column in the old Daily News and expect to set the world on fire, because I've discovered something really weird about our culture. The fact that we think that 1 second in public, and this kid is going to be stolen by a mom with 2 small children of her own. Yuck, who wants another kid? But, and I get like 3 emails, and 2 say like, you sound like America's worst mom, or something like that. And one says, you're not crazy, but I'm crazy for Skanazy. A letter I love. But that was it. So much for setting the world on fire. But a couple of years later, I'm at another newspaper by then, let's just say that, the New York Sun. Our 9-year-old son starts asking me and my husband, and I think a lot of you know this story, if we would take him someplace he had never been before in New York and let him find his own way home on the subway. And we have to think about this. My husband, America's worst dad, you never hear that, okay? My husband and I have to think about this because our older son, who never gets mentioned, so I'm going to mention him now, Maury, done, okay? He calls himself the control group. Right. Maury hadn't asked, okay? He's 11, younger son is 9, and we decide, yeah, we're going to let him do this. We think he's old enough, he's ready, we're on the subways all the time. They're crowded. We think there's safety in numbers. So one sunny Sunday, I take Izzy to Bloomingdale's, fancy department store, fancy neighborhood, and I leave him in the handbag department because it did strike me as funny. But I told him first that this was the day. It wasn't like, Mom. No. He knew today was the day I was going to leave him in the handbag department. Was really because when you leave the handbag department, there's the subway. It's right outside. Arlene is nodding. She spent many a day in the handbag department at Bloomingdale's. Right? Let's see your handbag. So I went one way, and he apparently, or I shouldn't be here, went down into the subway, and then he talked to one of those things you're never supposed to talk to. It was a man. He talked to an adult male, right? And he said, excuse me, is this the downtown side? I'm trying to take the downtown train. And the guy said, perfect for Melissa. No. No. The guy said, you're on the wrong side. You got to go over there. So he goes up, over, down, takes the subway, a couple stops down. You'd think I would have counted them by now. And he emerges on 34th Street. Miracle on 34th Street. Here I am. And then you had to take a bus across town, takes the bus across town to our apartment complex, and he came into our apartment levitating. Yes. Levitating. He was so proud that he had finally been trusted to do something on his own, something really grown up that he didn't realize he was going to have to do for the rest of his life. It's going to become a real drag soon. But that first time, it's like driving. Oh, this is great. Oh, no. He was so proud. So I didn't write about it immediately because I didn't realize my entire rest of my life depended on it, right? But about a month and a half later, when I didn't have a column to write and I was trying to think what I could write about, I said to my editor, should I write about Izzy taking the subway by himself? Talked to some of the other 4th grade moms, and they thought they were going to wait a little longer till their kids were like, 38, 39. Yeah, right. And so she said, yeah, write about it. It sounds like a nice local story. Local story. Did I mention I've spoken in Sydney twice? Including at the Opera House. Anyway, so the thing runs, why I let my 9-year-old ride the subway alone. And that night the phone rings, and I pick it up, and I don't know if this crowd will know. I bet you do. It was Joey Boots. Anybody know Joey Boots? Who's yeah, who are you? How come he knows that? Yes, who you with? She's hiding her face, right? The lady who liked my shirt. Indeed, he was Joey, who's from Howard Stern. I'm like, Howard Stern? Why are you calling me? I'm married, I'm straight. Has Howard seen me? I'm not sure I'm his type. When I dance around a pole, it is the 1st of May, okay? So why? And he said, well, I thought I read your story. I thought Howard might be interested. I'm like, oh, well, okay. And I hung up the phone, and I washed off my hands. And then the phone rang again, and it was the Today Show. And I'm like, oh. And I thought when I hung up the phone with them, and that I was like, who could I feel like? And it was a Caitlyn Jenner moment, okay? Who gets called by both of them? Nobody. Maybe a Kardashian. Anyways, in the end, Howard did not have me on. Otherwise, you would have known, obviously. You slavish devotee of Howard Stern. But 2 days after the Subway column ran, I was on the Today Show, MSNBC, Fox News, and for contrast, NPR, being described as a horrible mom and eventually America's worst mom. And it took me a very long time to figure out what was going on, literally 4 years, because at one point in the conversation with me, and this happened just with Today Show and all of those shows, but every show, pretty much every show in the last 8 years that has had me on gets to this point. We're bantering. Oh, did he like it? Yes, he liked it. And then they lean over and they say, but Lenore, the voice drops, how would you have felt if he never came home? And I'm like, I do have that spare son. You know? but I could never figure out what I was supposed to say. What do you say that? And then it finally occurred to me that the reason I didn't have an answer is because it wasn't a question. That's not a question. They know exactly how I would feel, and the remorse, and the regret, and the sadness, and the tears, and I wouldn't be on their show, for God's sake. But what they were saying is, why weren't you thinking about that before you let him go? Because to be a good parent in America today, you are supposed to always be going to the very worst case scenario and working your way back from that into how you would feel if it happened. I call it worst first thinking, mostly because I was trying to combat stranger danger. I needed something else that rhymed. And so worst first thinking is coming up with the worst case scenario first. And once you start realizing that that's become the MO, not just for parents, but for government, I think you will start seeing it everywhere. Everybody thinking about, like, we have to make a regulation because what about the 1 in a zillion times that this might happen? Oh, let's just never let it happen at all. So what am I going to tell you about that? So I started my blog. That's what I'm going to tell you about. I started my blog, Free Range Kids, that weekend because I wanted to explain to people that I'm a good mom. You know, I wanted him to survive. I love safety. I think I'm a nervous mom. I believe in helmets and car seats and seat belts and mouth guards. And I'm a Jewish mom. We have a reputation. I wear extra layers. You know, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm a daredevil at all. But once I started the blog, I started hearing all these things coming around from the country about all these different ways that we have become very, very afraid for our kids, and things that I didn't realize were going on because I was in my Manhattan bubble. For instance, I didn't realize that across the country now, parents are driving their kids to the bus stop. Did you know? You know that, okay, because you don't live in Manhattan. But I didn't know that. And then there are buses that think that that's too far. You know, the bus stop, well, that's several houses away, you know, from where the child lives. So now there are places where the bus stops at every single house. You know, the kids arrive vomiting. We had 50 stops on the way here. And that's just getting to school. Getting home from school is an amazing ballet these days. Here's what happens. At around, 20 or 30 minutes before the bell rings, a line of cars starts forming from the school around the block through the cul-de-sac across the street. Basically, they're all the way back home. There's this giant snaking line of cars, and they're just waiting for that bell to ring. And then finally it's 3 o'clock and ding, 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 ding. Okay, it's time. All the children are gathered together. Okay, they're in a room like this, or they're in the gym or the cafeteria. And the bus kids, the kids nobody really cares about, they're over here, right? And then the beloved children are over here waiting for their parents to pick them up. And outside, there's somebody with a walkie-talkie, right? And the first car comes up, and there's a name either on the hang tag or on the dashboard, and it says, Oliver. Oliver's mother is here. Okay. Oh, Oliver, your mother is here. And they get Oliver, and they pick him up. They walk him outside, and they shove him in the car like like Obama, get in. Okay, and then off it goes, and then up comes Ava. Ava, there you go. Ava, your car is here. Sydney, your car is here. Jerry, your mother's here, and they're coming in and they're going out, and it's like there's like bombs exploding and snipers sniping and helicopters overhead. It's like, get out, come on, get out when you can. Come on, kids, get out safely for God's sake. I hope you make it. And there they go. Whew, wow. It's like the fall of Saigon every afternoon in areas across the country that the parents moved. Why? Because it was a safe place. I always say, you should just live in a slum. The kids are never going to touch the ground anyway. Save yourself some rent. And now I will really scare you by pausing to drink coffee. Thank you for saving my coffee. Anyways, there's something weird about this, the getting to and from school. It shows you, not just the example, but you see it in the words. When I went to school, got there in the school and it was arrival, right? And the afternoon it was dismissal. And now it's, you think that I'm skinny, so I'm in good shape, but I'm not. I'm in terrible shape, so I have to pause for a moment. So now it's drop off and pick up, right? The words have actually changed because our kids have become FedEx packages, right? I had a drop off this morning. I got to go pick it up this afternoon. I got to drop it off again. Oh my God, back and forth. But that's what they are. They're like things. They're not allowed to be people like we were allowed to be people. So it's not just the transporting of kids that's changed. Every aspect of childhood is seen as potentially dangerous. So the Girl Scouts are still allowed to toast a marshmallow, but they must have, by law, one knee on the ground. Why? Oh, they don't fall into the flames, like the human s'more. It's like, I got my Joan of Arc badge, but it just wasn't worth it, One mom wrote to me, there it is. One mom wrote to me that her son had gone to Cub Scouts and there'd been a guy teaching all the kids how to whittle. How do you whittle? Ha! Yeah, he got to use a knife. And then he gave each individual Cub Scout a stick and a, what? A stick and another stick. That's flames. Then you're back to the Girl Scouts. No, he gave every kid a stick and a potato peeler. Potato peeler. Imagine our proud Native American forebears. Like, I have been working on this totem pole for like 7 years. I cannot get anywhere. You cannot whittle. I actually think it's more dangerous with potato peeler because you're like, it's slipping off. Anyways, because you get to a certain age and you start saying, oh, everything was better in the olden days and we loved it. And, I had to prove that something had really changed, something profoundly different about the way we're raising our kids. I needed a smoking gun, as it were. And I found one. Not a gun, the smoking gun, a metaphor. If you get the double DV set called Sesame Street Old School, it shows you highlights of Sesame Street from 69 to 74, the first 5 years it was on the air. And you see things like children playing Follow the Leader, and the leader is not Jerry. The leader is not an adult. The leader is a 5-year-old, right? 5-year-olds following each other around. You see kids playing in a vacant lot, which I'm sure a lot of you loved playing in. And the kids are balancing on a beam, and there's no like little mulch chips below. There's no mat. It's just the ground. You see them go through one of those gigantic pipes, that you can, and there's like no homeless guy in the middle. It's just straight through, and they come out on the other end. But before you see any of this, a warning appears on screen. Yeah, and here's what it says. The following is intended for adult viewing only and may not be suitable for our youngest viewers. And I'm thinking, that's gross both ways. It's so weird. And it wasn't like these were random Super 8 movies that Peggy Charnon, threw on Channel 13. These were videos that were created to model a halcyon childhood. but we are not allowed to show it anymore because some of the children were unsupervised. So I wanted to figure out is that me? Or is that a dying cat? Is it to distract me while somebody steals a child? No. I don't know what it was. It's done, right? Yeah, okay. So I wanted to figure out, how did we get to this point where we are so afraid for our children in every single situation? Because I didn't know. And frankly, I had a lot of free time on my hand because the paper I went to had gone out of business. So do you guys remember the New York Sun? I mean, I would think that this is a New York Sun crowd, right? It was a great paper. When I was working there, I didn't even agree with it. Now I agree with it. Anyway, so I did my research, and I found what I think are 4 reasons that parents today are so much more afraid than our own parents were. And I'm going to whip us through them. The first thing we have to blame is, what do we always blame? TV, the media. Although I thought you were going to say liberals because of this crowd. Right. Obama. It's all Obama's fault. Right. Yeah, it was him. No. Right. We have to blame the media because the media is to blame. There is no story that television loves more, and I say this as cynically as I can, than the story of a white, middle or upper middle class child who has disappeared at the hands of a stranger. And this is so common that ABC for a while had hired Elizabeth Smart to be its missing children correspondent. News, weather, and sport. Elizabeth, anybody missing today? You know, it's like, yeah, there's a cold front coming in, and Jimmy is gone. Have you guys heard of? You're not allowed to answer this one because he already heard my speech one. Anybody remember the name Maddie McCann? Maddie McCann, taken from her hotel room in Portugal. Okay. Here's my one pop quiz, and you guys are a little too erudite. You might actually pass this one. But we all know she was taken from a hotel room in Portugal. Her parents, goddamn them, were eating dinner. They should never eat dinner except watching the child like this, eating. Right? So I'd like you to tell me anything else that has happened in Portugal in the last 500 years. Right? They have a king. I know you did your Portuguese studies. I'm not even going to ask Scott. Ignore Scott Campbell. The point is, we don't know anything else about Portugal except that one story, because that's the only story that mattered to American media, to send camera crews over there. And it's sort of like when Columbus came here looking for, saffron, tiny little strands of gold that were worth so much. We went over there for this one extraordinarily rare story that was worth so much to us. And then those stories that we see on the news get sort of twisted and turned and brought back on the drama shows at night. And so a couple years ago, somebody wrote to my blog and said, Lenore, did you watch Law and Order last night? And I'm like, I can't figure out how to turn on my TV. My husband gave us, there's 5 remotes. It goes through the DVR, and it goes through a projector, and then it goes through the computer, and then it goes to NASA or something. And I cannot turn on my TV. And she said, well, figure out a way to watch it. So this is where Maury comes back in. Maury, can you illegally download me a television show? And Maury came through. So I'm watching the show, Law and Order SVU. And on it, there's a cute, cherubic 9-year-old boy who says to his mom, Mom, can I take the subway by myself? And the mother goes, no. And I'm like, never. I don't pinch cheeks. I don't woo. And I'm out. She was Roma, right? Oh, she's ethnic, but not Lenore's ethnicity. Okay. So she says, no, that's too dangerous. And the little kid goes like, no, Mom, it's fun. I'll be fine. I'm like, you won't be fine. You're on Law and Order. You're a crazy person. But the mother reluctantly agrees. She's been knitting him mittens and a scarf. So he puts on the scarf, puts on the mittens, and he goes to school. Does he get to school? No. Yes, he does. Does he get home from school? No. What do they find on the ground? Not the scarf. What's sadder? The mitten! Oh, it's the mitten! And I always say it's because there were no empty swings available. Right? So, and it turns out it was done by bullies. So the reason I bring up this story is really just for personal gratification and to show you how, because I wanted to show you. So this is the boy in the Law and Order episode. See him? And one second. That's my son. Don't you wonder what they're seeing? There, you got that quarter? That's my son. See? There. Yeah. You know, even my son, when he saw this, went, you know, usually somebody says, oh, I saw somebody who just looks like you, and you think, oh my God, that old, horrible hag. But he could recognize that this was exactly the same. So I brought that up just so I could show you my son, who's now, 18. Anyway, we blame the media because the media are to blame. The second thing that has changed us as parents and as a society is that we live in this will shock you guys, a litigious culture. Okay, and when you live in a litigious culture, you start thinking like a trial lawyer, and everything starts looking dangerous. You start looking through the lens of risk. Once you do that, nothing is safe. So the Consumer Product Safety Commission, this is so weird to be talking to a room full of libertarians instead of just angry liberal moms. They think like, oh, they're saving us. I'm like, no. Last year, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, you could read about this on Reason, recalled 140,000 children's sweatshirts. Why? Why? What do you think was wrong with them? Drawstring. Usually people think it's the drawstring that they're, going to choke. But in fact, that wasn't it. This was a zipper pull. The company had received one note from one person who said that the little zipper thing had fallen off the bottom of one sweatshirt, and that posed a choking hazard. Isn't it weird that we all know that that's what they would say? It is, but if that's a choking hazard, so is I was going to say every peanut, but of course a peanut is like disaster writ large for every other reason. But it's like every dime, every button, earring. I mean, everything is dangerous when you start thinking about something terrible that a child could do with it that would end up disastrous or, on the other hand, netting you millions of dollars from a company in court. The town of Richland, Washington, either last year or the year before, and I was just out in Washington, and everyone said, oh, yeah, they knew it. The school district got rid of all the swings. No swings on the playgrounds in Richland, Washington. And the reason, they said, was that they read studies, and swings are the most dangerous equipment on the playground. And I'm like, yeah, of course they are. You got rid of the teeter-totters. You got rid of the merry-go-rounds. And I'm thinking like the slide is looking at the jungle gym, and the jungle gym is looking at the slide, and they're like, oh, it's him, yeah, it's him. What are you going to do? And it's like, first they came for the teeter-totters, and I said nothing. you know? Wasn't that guy yesterday, Walt Williams, saying it happens gradually? It's like the frog on the playground. There's nothing to play with. I can't believe it. So the litigiousness of society is another reason that we're so afraid, because we internalize that idea that oh, I wouldn't do that. It seems dangerous. And then also laws take things out. Third reason we're so afraid is that we live in an expert culture. And an expert culture is a culture where experts abound. And what do experts do? They tell you you're doing it wrong, right? And so you start thinking like, God, do I not know how to do anything? The book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, it started out as 300 pages, and then the next one was 405, and I was thinking ooh, someday it's going to pop. But the latest edition says, and I'm paraphrasing, it says something like, now with more symptoms than ever. Yes! I thought it was gas, right? But it has 29 pages on what to eat when you're expecting. And I could save a ton of trees by telling you one word. You don't eat. I was actually going to say the opposite. I was going to say eat more, right? Eat some more. That's what this kid is doing. But it tells you have to eat for the brain development and the bonding and the this and the that, and you have to have a will of steel and never eat that delicious. Well, I didn't think dessert was that delicious. But never eat, yesterday's dessert was quite good. Or never eat a ho-ho. Forget the German chocolate cake. You can't have, all the stuff I love. Hostess cupcake. Basically, all Hostess products are going to kill your kid. So they go on and on about exactly what you must be doing to have the perfect child. And if you don't have, if you eat that ho-ho, all bets are off. So you start feeling like it's all up to you to make this perfect child. And then the baby comes out, and then there's all the parenting magazines. And if you hang out with me later just for fun, we can go through this. This has like 17 pages marked in it and things that drive me crazy. But I wanted to read you just one, because somehow they treat you being a mom, as if you have zero brains and have no idea how to do the most basic things and raise your child. And so I'm going to read to you, with the help of my volunteer here, who's going to be Harry White today. I'm going to read you from Parenting Magazine's Hug How To. This is Boost Your Child's Confidence with our Hug How To. So Harry, you're going to be my child. Just stand there and look adorable. Oh, he's so cute. I want to hug him, but how? Okay, trying to catch your little one in an embrace may seem like a daunting task. Oh, if only I could catch him. Oh, this is so hard. Okay, but say you do. I have to do it because it'll boost his self-confidence, according to a PhD. Hugs show children that they are loved and appreciated. Huh! Oh, so I really should do this. Okay, but how? How? The perfect formula. Okay, go down. You have to be on your knees to be a little child. Sorry, you have to look from the back there. Okay, get down to your little one's level, okay, and wrap him in both arms. Oh, wait, with chests touching. Oh, you know what? This is much better. This feels great. Why? 75 years, Harry, we've been doing it wrong. Okay, right. And how long should I stay here, though? My God, I have a speech to give. Okay, it says, try to hold the hug for about 3 seconds. Okay, 1, 2, 3. That was great. Thank you, Harry. Done. Thank you, Harry, and thank you, Jerry. It's the Harry and Jerry Show. Can you believe it? I mean, I'm a freelance writer. I have to write those articles. It's like how to hold a birthday party. There was one in Parents Magazine. They once had 4 pages on how to have a fun day in the sun with your child. I'm like, how? How would I do that? I would have to, I guess, go outside. How would I do that? Oh, a stroller, a $700 stroller. Okay, so basically, the expert culture is making you think that you don't have any clue how to raise a child. And then, finally, there is what I call the, what do I call it? I call it the child safety industrial complex. And frankly, I'm very happy we live in a capitalist society, but sometimes it goes a little overboard. And I brought some examples. And if you know what these really are, don't guess. But if you don't know what they are, you can guess. And Scott Campbell, who has memorized everything I've ever said or written, is disqualified. So, okay, what are these? What are these? What are these? You're supposed to guess. And you're supposed to guess wrong. Sweat removers. I like that one because that's wrong. That's like leg warmers. Leg warm? What? They are for babies when they crawl. Let me ask you, did you need these when you were crawling? Right? So somehow we did it. Yes, these, in fact, are baby knee pads, right? Baby knee pads, because you decorated the nursery in crushed glass, Bad idea. I like sparkles. Obviously, I like sparkles, but that was a bad idea. So if you go on the website that sells these, it's called One Step Ahead. And you know it. It's like the perfect. It's like fish in a barrel, one step ahead. And so you read the reviews, and one lady said that she loved these because they helped her child make the difficult transition from the carpet to the floor. And thinking like, that's a mom who ate the Hostess cupcake. But the point is that you actually want your kid to feel a little uncomfortable crawling, right? You want them to have a little bit of an incentive to get up because you don't want your kid going, Mom, can you get me a beer? You know? So there's the reasoning for this is limited. Okay, here's another example. These are table toppers, okay? Table toppers are disposable placemats from our friends at Disney who would never create anything that you didn't absolutely need. Okay, they are eco-friendly, except for the fact that they exist. And, and here's what they do. These provide on-the-go protection from germs, dirt, and cleaning chemicals on restaurant and food court tables. Okay, wait a minute. They provide on-the-go protection from germs, dirt, and cleaning chemicals. So if you're at the food court and you're scraping off yesterday's burrito, you know, thank God you've got a table topper. But if you get to the food court and it's sparkling clean, thank God you have a table topper. So what are they telling you? This is like the perfect example of our culture. They're telling you your child is in constant danger no matter what. You better buy something before you go out there. The child can't have an unmediated experience in the world without you getting something to keep them safe. But my very favorite example from this whole category is this. All right, what is this? And not you who know. Those of you who don't know, you know everything. You guessed right the last time. You know, hands down. Right. How about somebody who doesn't know? A rubber ducky? That's my favorite answer because it's not. I mean, it is. It is, but it is basically what? It's a bathtub toy. That's a sweet thing, Jerry. When the days when we had bathtub toys are over, okay? Right. This is no toy. This is a safety device. This is the baby bathwater temperature duck, okay? Yeah. So you get some water in the bathtub, you put the little ducky in, and if you take it out and you see the word hot, then you know that the water is, hot, right? Because you couldn't possibly put your hand in the water. And if you take it out and all that's left is like bones, right? And there's stuff in the water and it smells funny and you're in pain, you know, then you have to have this. Except, Jerry, you got your glasses on, your reading glasses on. I want you to read me what the lawyers put on here. This one sentence under caution where it says, adult should always. Just start with adult.
Adult should always place hand in bathwater to test the temperature before placing baby in tub.
What? Wait a minute. So what is this duck doing? What is this duck doing? No children in the room, I'll tell you. Duck is fucking with your mind, okay? Duck is driving you insane. It's like I took a bath once in my life. I knew it was hot. I thought I knew. I guess I don't. It's just driving you crazy. And that's what our whole culture is doing. It is basically out there driving us crazy. So those fears, all the fears about the products and the bath water and the knees and the such, those all pale compared to the biggest fear that all parents have today, and that is abduction. It's the predators. And that fear is so pervasive that I just tell you a couple of stories I got. One was a grandma was at IKEA and she saw a father with his little 4-year-old girl or whatever, and she waved to the little baby, hi, and the little girl turned to her father and said, Daddy, that lady waved at me. Is she going to abduct me? Right? Because, oh my God, a stranger is grooming her or something like that. There was I have my other cool stories. Oh, so a lady was sitting on her lawn. Her children were frolicking in front of her. She's reading a book. And another woman passing by on the sidewalk said, put down your book. Don't you realize your children could be snatched at any minute? I mean, that's how deep the fear is, that you can be sitting there with your children, but because you're reading the book, somehow they are taken like, Mom. It's like, no, I'm at the good part. Mom, it's a ban. So what's the effect on our kids? What is the effect on our kids? Here's a real letter I got from a kid who wrote to me. Why is a child writing to you? Wrote, Dear free-range kids, I'm 15 right now and get pretty much no freedom. Freedom, our topic today. I'm limited to what's inside the house and the backyard. I can't even go as far as the sidewalk. I might be," and he put it in quotes, "abducted or killed." I used to walk to a bus stop, but my dad said it was too dangerous, so he started driving me there, and eventually he just started driving me to school. Today, after playing video games for 2 hours or so, I went downstairs and realized the only things I could do there were eat and watch TV. Watching TV, playing video games, and eating junk food are fun and all, but after even just a few days, it gets old. Parentheses, I've been on winter break for half a week now. I don't want my kids, if I ever even have kids, to live like me at all. Oh, yeah. So here it is. These parents, he knows that his parents love him, but they're so afraid of him being kidnapped that they kidnapped him, right? That's a kidnapped child. He's living indoors, forced to be like Rapunzel, okay? And what worries me and what brought me to reason is when that pervasive fear, that belief that kids cannot be outside at all without them being endangered, has started seeping into law, okay? When I started hearing from parents getting investigated and sometimes arrested for letting their children play outside, walk to school, be in the park without them there. Whoever wanted to spend all Saturday day in the park with your kids? It's impossible. And what kid wants their parent there for the whole day? But that's what I started hearing. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the story of the Mayteves. Okay, the Mayteves of Maryland. It was Danielle and Sasha Alexander let their 2 kids, aged 10 and 6, walk home from the park in Silver Spring, and the cops saw these. It's like there's a lemur escaped from the zoo. You see a child out there without an adult, and it's like seeing a weird species that should never be apart from its suckling parent. So the kids got taken home to the door of the house, and actually Danielle, the mom, wasn't there that day, but the dad was. Cops are there. Are these your kids? Yes. Okay. Well, sir, we have to see some ID. And the father, Alexander, grew up in Russia, and he's had enough of state intervention in his life. And he said, I don't have to show you my ID. You brought the kids to my house. They're my kids. And the cop woman said, get your ID. And so he felt he had to. And so he starts walking up the stairs to get his wallet. And this is what the wife told me afterwards happened. It said, on his way, walking up the stairs, the cop said to him, you better bring down just your ID or shots will be fired. Shots will be fired. So he came down, showed her the ID. The cops left. That afternoon, Child Protective Services came. More knocking on the door. They come in. They talk to the dad. They say, okay, we want you to sign a safety plan for your kids. And he said, I'm from Russia. I'm not gonna sign the safety plan. And they said, well, if you don't sign the safety plan, then we may have to take your children. So he signed the safety plan, which said the exact same thing that we're talking about today. My children will not be out of my sight until this next meeting I have with Child Protective Services. And after several months, they closed that case by declaring that the parents were, and this is like calling Kafka, they were guilty of unsubstantiated neglect, which was so weird. I mean, it was like a way of keeping them on the books while not saying something and saying something. It was kind of genius. But and then it happened again. Weirdly enough, the kids were coming home again, and the cops picked them up. And when they found out, hey kids, we'll take you home. They're like, no, we were walking home. We're going to be fine. It's like, no, we'll take you home. Who are your parents? Oh, they're the Mayteves. Oh shit. The cops didn't know what to do, and so they held the kids for 5 hours, and finally alerted the Mayteves as to where the kids were after the first 3 hours. They'd taken them to an emergency shelter because this was an emergency. A 10-year-old walking a 6-year-old home. When I was a kid, I walked to school at 5. I think a lot of us did. We walked to kindergarten. And when I got to the corner, the crossing guard was a kid. Do you remember that? Anybody remember the crossing guard? Yeah. I mean, with all the authority vested in him by a sash. I can get you across. I have a sash. And I just have to tell you one weird anecdote about me, which is that crossing guard at my corner, I married mine. I did. It is. We figured it out years later. And then when I tell this to people, they go, That's exactly what we're afraid of. It's like, no, he wasn't 30 then. He was a 10-year-old. So, but now the Métis were arrested twice for the 10-year-old walking the 6-year-old home. So I get stories like this all the time, and I'll just tell you one more, and then if you want to be regaled with a million, I had my wonderful intern from Thank You Reason for giving me an intern, Paul Best, the best intern. I'm bad at keeping track of everything, so I just throw things in a file, and I said, organize these. These were all the people who had written to me about getting either arrested or investigated for letting their kids either walk to the park or wait in the car for a few minutes. It's 10 pages. It is 10 pages long. And that was my intern from like a year ago, so there's like the whole list of people I haven't added to there yet. So here's the story that happened in November. Maria Hassan-Colley, mom, she stays up very late with her aunt who's dying. She stayed with her aunt while she died at Yale New Haven Hospital. That was at 5 a.m. She doesn't get home till 6 in the morning. Guess what? She sleeps through the time that her kid is supposed to wake up. 8-year-old gets up. His mom's asleep, makes breakfast. He, of course, misses the bus. But he decides to, guess what? Like Neil Armstrong, he's going to walk to school, right? He can do it. So he starts walking to school, and once again, it's the escaped lemur thing. Somebody sees this child out there, calls the police. The police come and get him. What happened, kid? Oh, my mom overslept. Oh, yeah? Okay, well, we'll drive you to school. They drive him to school. They do a U-turn. They come back. They all knock on the door. Maria's there. It's like, you're Maria Hassan-Colley? Yes. Where's your kid? She's like, I don't know. He's in his room. I got to get him up for school. Oh, no, he's not. He was already walking to school. And she says that they said to her, you're despicable. Despicable, that 8-year-old walking to school. And so they put her in handcuffs. They put her in the cop car. They took her to the police station. And if you go online, actually at Reason, you can see her mugshot, okay? So she's going to be she already was investigated by CPS, but she's awaiting her criminal trial for negligence. Okay. So before I get to how we together are going to fight that culture on a personal level of getting up the guts to send our kids back outside, but then also a political level of making sure that when we do it, we don't get arrested, I have one audience participation thing to do. You don't have to come up here. It's going to be talking amongst yourselves, but I want you to think back on something that you did as a kid that you loved doing that you don't see kids doing today, okay? And it could be because they're just not allowed to by their parents, or it could be because the parents are afraid of getting arrested. So talk amongst yourselves in groups of half the table and half the table of something you did as a kid that nobody does anymore today as kids. 4 minutes. Okay, so how can we bring that back in our society where the parents are afraid and the government is afraid? I'm going to tell you the 2 things that I think we can do. In terms of parents being afraid, I've started when I speak to schools, I try to get the school to agree what I call the free range kids project. And it's free. It takes 1 second to explain. I will explain it to you now. The teachers tell the kids to go home and ask their parents if they can do one thing that they feel they're ready to do that for one reason or another they haven't done yet. It can be walk the dog, make dinner, get yourself to school, whatever. And because the school is endorsing it and because it's a one-shot deal, they only have to do it once. And often it's for extra credit. Who could resist, right? Like maybe that'll get them into Harvard. So the parents usually say yes. And then the one school that started this project, which is in New York, it was with a 6th grade class. Every year I go and I hear the projects that the kids have done. And every year there's kids who sorely disappoint me because they have decided to make an egg. Oh boy, these 11-year-olds are going to make an egg. And they're also told how to write in a certain overly dramatic way, I guess. And so one kid wrote that he decided to make an egg and he said, I approached the flame. And I'm like, get a pan. No wonder he's so scared, right? One kid asked her mother, she was living downtown in Battery Park City, which is an incredibly safe neighborhood of downtown Manhattan, unless there's a terrorist attack. But otherwise, it's very safe. And she asked her mother if she could go knocking on the doors of all the other apartments on their floor and just introduce herself. And the mother said, are you crazy? No! Then they'll know you're here and those men, and oh, no, it's horrible predator. And then the girl said, because this was a magnet school, she said, but Mom, very smart. What if there's ever a fire in our apartment? Don't you want them to know to come get me? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Fire predators. Okay, it's extra credit. So she knocked on the doors of the other apartments, and she found 2 girls her age, right? Because that's what my movement is about. Free Range Kids is about creating community, all right? Finding out who's out there. So that's one thing. The Free Range Kids Project changes people, and I can tell you tons of wonderful Free Range Kids stories afterwards. And it changes the parents just as much. I was talking about this at our lunch today. When the parents see the kid come home and they've just run their errand for the first time, or they made the dinner, or whatever it is, something that the parent thought the kid couldn't possibly do yet because all they had in their mind was that worst first thinking, oh, something terrible will happen. And the kid comes in the door and they've got the cranberry juice or whatever for they went to the grocery by themselves. The parent is so proud that it's like the Grinch. The pride squeezes out the fear, okay? So it transforms the kid, but it really transforms the parent. And if you have a whole school do it, it can start transforming the school. At Menlo Park, Oak Knoll High School is doing it for the 2nd year in a row because they thought it changed the parents so much. So the Free Range Kids Project is to change the parents. But what about the laws? What about the idea that you could be arrested if you let your kid play outside? I got a letter yesterday. Are you telling me, like, hurry up already? Yes. Okay. I got a letter yesterday from a mom sending her 8-year-old. She wanted to send her 8-year-old to the grocery, and she's afraid that the grocery has people who are told to look for, abandoned children and report them to CPS. She's saying, what can I do? Well, here's what we have to do. And this is where reason comes in. I wrote something I call the Free Range Kids Bill of Rights, which you'll be happy to know is 1 sentence long. And it's this. It says, our children have the right to some unsupervised time, and we have the right to give it to them without getting arrested. It's as simple as that. But because we're trying to get this passed as a law, I gave it to Adrienne Moore, who made it paragraphs and paragraphs long. And it sounds like gobbledygook policy, which is just what we want. Whereas children born and development and the statistics, blah, 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 blah. And I spoke to the ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, a couple months ago, just gave them the basic lecture like this, and then hopefully, and how could they say no, I'm here in public, you're going to send me to the main meeting in Indiana in a couple of months, and we'll present the Adrienne version of the bill, and if it strikes the fancy of the legislators who are at this conference, then they can take it to their states and try to pass this very basic law that gives parenting back to parents and childhood back to children. And I think that the state or even the locality that does this first is going to be famous. We're the free-range town. And I think their property values are going to shoot through the roof, because if you could live in Evanston and they're arresting you when your kid goes to the park, and you can live in Wilmette and, the police who are looking at the kid in the park say, are you okay? And then the kid says yes, or they leave, or the Child Protective Services, are you okay? Yes, and they leave. That's the place I want to live. And noticing that this is something that people want, Senator Mike Lee from Utah, you guys know him, right? He's a Free Range Kids fan. And I got a letter from his, a legislative assistant saying, the senator, I was like, I know which senator, would like to add Free Range Kids legislation to, somehow in a federal law. And what he decided to do is when the Every Child Succeeds Act was going through, he added an amendment that says, because it's about school, he added an amendment, and it's there on page 858, that says, children have the right, parents have the right to decide how their kids get to school, and it could be by, foot or by bike or by bus. And it's like, you forgot subway, but it's in there, and it's already being quoted. I've heard people quoting it in like local city council meetings, saying like, you can't arrest me, you can't tell me I have to have my kid in a car all the time. It's my right as a parent. So thank you for supporting Reason, and thank you, Nick, and the Reason crowd for supporting me, because together, through legislation and through giving people a pair of balls, we can create, this is my closing line here, free minds, free markets, and free moms. Thank you very much.